Serbia, the wonderland. In many ways, it is true. In the next few minutes, we will document this claim. It is our desire to bring you to attention what we claim. We hope it will penetrate to your souls. The history we are learning and the history of Serbia. The history we are learning and the hidden history of Serbia. For decades, students in Serbia schools have learned that Serbs and other Balkan nations came to the Balkans from the north in the 6th and 7th century. Recent research by archaeologists and DNA experts have begun to uncover new details that completely break down the thesis. There is more and more evidence that Serbs have been in this region for thousands of years. What has been happening in our distant past we'll probably never be able to find out in details, but what we know is a turning point in our history that has been happening from the 10th century onwards. One of the key people who defined the next nearly 1,000 years was Saint Sava and his father, Saint Simeon, born in the present-day Montenegro. Saint Sava. It is almost unbelievable that 19 years old man with vision renounced earthly treasures, throne of kingdom, and determines the future and the history of the entire Serbian people. Saint Sava was a nobleman from Raška, a monk, an abbot, a writer, a diplomat, and a first archbishop of independent Serbian Orthodox Church. He is considered one of the most significant figures in the Serbian history and the founder of the Serbian Church. Sava won the independence of Serbia from Byzantine and laid the foundation of today's Serbian state. Turkish Sinan Pasha burned the relics of Saint Sava in Belgrade, a magnificent temple bearing his name and which you had opportunity to see. Turkish occupation of Serbia. Traces of Christianity in Kosovo dates from the time of the apostles. For the Serbs, Kosovo is the same as Jerusalem's for Jews. There are over 1,000 monasteries and churches in Kosovo, many of which are protected by UNESCO, and many destroyed by Kosovo Albanians. Kosovo has always been a target of invaders, precisely because of this spiritual vertical. Thus, Kosovo was the target of Ottoman Empire as well. The most significant battle in the history of Serbia and even Europe, in some sense, was the Battle of Kosovo that took place in 1389. The Serbian forces were led by Prince Lazar, while the Turkish army was led by Sultan Murat and his two sons Jakub and Bayazid. Miloš Obilić succeeded in killing Sultan Murat, but Murat's son Bayazid, after which he recaptured his army, was able to kill and capture Lazar. It is difficult to say who won this battle, but the fact is Turks returned to the Balkans 100 years after the Battle of Kosovo. After the Battle of Kosovo, the news quickly spread across Europe that Christians have won the battle, and the Notre Dame in Paris rang the bell for a whole week. The battle in Kosovo has definitely resolved the fate of Europe, for after there was almost no force that could withstand the Turks as far as Vienna. The Turks have ruled this part of Europe for almost 500 years. Liberation from Turks. Serbia, which was one of the strongest states of this part of Europe, then, due to silver and gold mines before the occupation, after 500 years of slavery, it was destroyed, both materially and culturally. Serbia only restored its state in the 19th century. The First World War. What is specific about this Serbia? There's much to it, but one amazing detail is that there is an archaeological site in the vicinity of Belgrade called Vinča. Vinča is a testament of Vinča culture. We found an alphabet in Vinča which is 90% similar to the current Serbian alphabet Cyrillic. The Vinča culture has existed for several thousands of years. What is interesting is that archaeologists have not found any weapon used during this long period, which suggests that there was no wars in that area for thousands of years during Vinča culture. So how is it that in the last few centuries Belgrade has been more bombed than any other city in Europe? One possible reason is that Serbia is on the verge of civilizations that could never be understood by the West properly. We were at the frontier of Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Turkish Empire, and now the Western coalition. Genetics of our people do not qualify us to be in war all the time, or to be heroes. But whatever we thought of ourselves, it was definitively Gavrilo Princip who assassinated Franz Ferdinand. Looking from the perspective of people living in Bosnia and Sarajevo, one of the reasons could be that the new ruler, Austro-Hungary, was more cruel than Turkish. The new ruler strongly launched an initiative to suppress Serbian people, convert them to Catholicism, and abolish their church. Either way, World War I started, and it started on the banks of the Danube River in Belgrade, near us. In the first year of the war, Serbia defeated the Austro-Hungarian army. The following year, her army faced the triple invasion. Unwilling to surrender, the Serbian army retreated across Albanian mountains during the winter time. Army evacuated to Corfu, Greece, were rested and reorganized. From there, it was transferred to Thessaloniki frontier. The Serbian broke throughout the front. The Serbian army progressed steadily, and on November 1st, 1918, Belgrade was liberated. It has never happened in the world history that an entire army withdraw in front of a tenfold enemy, crossing some 300 kilometers across the snow-covered mountains of another country. Along the way, 243,000 soldiers, women, children, and elderly people died. But the recovering Serbian army returned very quickly and defeated the enemy, freeing their homeland. Serbia won a major victory in World War I at a disproportionate cost. During the war, it lost an estimated 1.1 million to 1.3 million inhabitants, accounting for almost a third of the total population, or as much as 60% of the male population. And by that, Serbia is unique in the world. Serbian friend, Swiss Archibald Rice. Rudolf Archibald Rice was a Swiss forensic scientist, publicist, doctor of chemistry, and a professor at the University of Lausanne. He distinguished himself as a criminologist by working on the investigation of the crime against Serbs population during the First World War. At the initiative of the Serbian government, Archibald Rice came to Serbia in 1914 to investigate the crimes of the enemy army against the civilian population. He has written many books and papers on the subject, and he has frequently submitted reports that have been published in the respected and neutral Switzerland newspaper, Gazette. In doing so, as a distinguished professor and a criminologist, he reported to the world and corrupted the propaganda image of German and also Hungarian about the Serbs as savage people. He was a member of the Yugoslav government delegation to the peace conference in Paris. He loved the Serbian peasant soldiers and the Serbian people and stayed in Serbia for the rest of his life. With the Serbian army, he crossed Albania, the Thessaloniki frontier, and marched with the Moravian division into liberation of Belgrade in November 1918. At his own request, after his death, his heart was taken to the urn of Kajmakčalan, where he was buried with the Serbs, liberators of the Thessaloniki frontier. The urn reads, "Here is the urn of the top of the Kajmakčalan. The golden heart sleeps, friend of Serbs from the hardest days, the hero of justice, truth and rights. Swiss Rice, let the glory be." The Archibald Rice was acquainted with the character, virtue, and flaws of the Serbian people. He wrote a lot about us, criticized us, our weaknesses, but as a rare foreigner in Serbian history, he loved us immensely and genuinely. Glory to Archibald Rice. Second World War. The Serbs are not prevented from avoiding suffering in the Second World War. Regardless of the attempt of the Yugoslav government to sign a pact with the German government was overthrown by General Simovic and slogan, "Better war than pact, better grave than slave." Hitler thus raged and attacked Serbia, delaying the start of the attack on the Soviet Union. It was clear that many foreign agents were involved in organizing the March demonstration in Belgrade, as it was appropriate for both USSR and the United Kingdom to get the Germany another enemy that would withdraw at least part of its forces south of Europe. Belgrade was bombed in April 6, 1941, and the Yugoslav army capitulated 11 days later. However, Serbs do not like slavery, and the first rebel formation quickly emerged in this region. Two resistance movements arose, Chetniks and partisans. The Chetniks were for the preservation of the monarchy, while the goal of the partisans was the communist revolution and the overthrow of the old system. The partisans units were led by Josip Broz Tito, a man who no one ever knows until today who he is and where he is coming from. The Serbs lost about 500,000 people in the World War II, but many disagreed with this figure because the big question is how many Serbs were killed in the Ustaša camps in Jasenovac in Croatia, which was an associate of the fascist Germany. We will remind in this camp, the only one in Europe, there was a section even for children. Serbs, Jews, and Gypsies were detained in this gruesome and anti-civilization battlefield. Allied air forces bombed Germany's strongholds in Belgrade 11 times in 1944 and killed Serbs again and again. The city infrastructure was severely destroyed, and Belgrade lost another 1,200 inhabitants, with about 5,000 people wounded. In this war, too, the Serbs did not attack anyone, only defended themselves, and their people suffered enormous losses. 1999 bombing of Serbia. Allied forces led by the Clinton administration decided to bomb Serbia in 1999. The reason for this was allegedly the crimes against civilians in a place called Račak. The decision was made few days after the alleged evidence was presented. The whole case was fabricated by the Mr. Walker, who led the team. Subsequently, Western forensic experts found that the bodies in Račak villages were in fact Serbian casualties. However, after the decision, Serbia was bombed non-stop for 72 days. Many companies have been destroyed to the ground. After nearly 20 years, Trump and many NATO generals have acknowledged that the bombing of Serbia was a great mistake on the part of Clinton administration, and it was a shame of Europe in 20th century. The consequences were catastrophic. Pollution from depleted uranium bomb had a negative impact on both the population of our country and all surrounding countries. Kosovo has become quasi-state, which is seen by more and more countries today as a center of crime and corruption. Each day, state renounces recognition of Kosovo as an independent state. Serbia has forgiven everyone because it understands that events are not decided by ordinary people, and that the greatest strength is forgiveness. Important events are decided by wealthy interest groups and international corporations. Serbia is now pursuing a peace policy and has excellent relations with all surrounding countries, as well as Austria, Germany, America, China, etc. Serbia is rising like a phoenix and recovering very quickly. Many companies have came with big investments from China, Germany, Israel, America, France, Russia, Turkey. Jews and Serbs. You know that the roots of present state of Israel lead to Belgrade. The idea of the state was started by Rabbi Hajj Alkalai. Alkalai is considered the spiritual father of Zionist movement. He lived in Belgrade. He was strongly influenced by his knowledge of Kabbalah, the national movement of the Serbs in the Balkans against Ottoman Empire. The young rabbi was probably influenced by the Serbs. What we heard recently is a statement that shook historians in Serbia and shattered the well-known thesis that Serbs and the people in the Balkans came to Balkans Peninsula in 6th century from the Carpathian Mountains. Namely, Israeli officials Benjamin Netanyahu and Reuven Rivlin said at the official press conference, the friendship of the Jews and Serbs people have been around for thousands of years since the time of Roman Republic. It has encouraged many Serb scholars to take up their history and come up with data that confirms these theses that Serbs are indigenous in the area. We mentioned the Vinča culture, the Vinča letter, and the Lepenski Vir. These three elements alone are sufficient to confirm the accuracy of the newly submitted thesis on the long-term existence of Serbs in the area of today's Balkans. Be that as it may be, the heart of every Serb warms up when they walk the path that leads to Jad Vashem. Many Serbs helped the Jewish people in the past, and Jewish people know that. There is a truly unbreakable friendship of the two nations, which, as Netanyahu and Rivlin said, that lasts actually thousands of years. Serbian Heroes. Serbia has been at war a lot. She never wanted anything else but freedom and peace. It has lost a lot, above all population. If it has not been a war for Serbia, Serbia would have now 20 million, not 7.5 million inhabitants. The difference is huge and damage is irreversible. Also, had it not been for 10-year economic sanctions in 1990s that few countries in the world would endure, the Serbian economy would certainly not have been at the forefront of Europe. However, while it has lost much immersibly, Serbia has given the world what no other country has and probably never will. It gave Nikola Tesla, a scientist who led the planet, provided a scheme for internet. Nikola Tesla patents helped us to go to moon, have X-ray, have radio, a television, transmit energy wirelessly, and who knows what else. With his inventions, Tesla changed the life of the entire planet, advancing it incomprehensibly. Tesla is a Serb and the son of an Orthodox priest from Lika. Lika is a part of Croatia, from where Croatian state expelled 300,000 Serbs in 1990s. My grandfather Danilo knew his cousin Tesla. Serbia gave a man called Mihailo Pupin. Pupin was a friend of American President Woodrow Wilson, and Wilson was loved by Serbs. Pupin's most important and most celebrated discovery was Pupin's spool used in a long-distance telephone conversation. So there will be no telephony if it were not for Pupin. Pupin is one of the founders of NASA. Serbia also has significant athletes like Novak Djokovic, we all know about, Vlada Divac. Serbia also has my friend Jovica Spajic, who has been multiple winner of the all ultramarathons in the last 5 years. Jovica won an unimaginable race in Himalayas. He ran non-stop 300 kilometers at the altitude of 2,000 to 5,000 meters. One of the most wonderful and humble people I know. Serbia also has one Sasha Devic, here among us in Winsett, Swiss, who received an award a few months ago at Michigan State University as a graduate student with the best professional results in the history of that university. So small, tormented, devastated, Serbia has given many significant world names, which is a miracle. That's why we call Serbia a wonderland. Potentials in Serbia. Everyone who has ever been in Serbia has noticed at least three things, and they were delighted by that. First, the food in our country is very tasty, and there are many places where you can try organic products, dishes. Almost all guests from our countries are delighted by the Serbian kebabs, fresh meats, cheeses, and wines. The second is nature. The beauties of Serbia are incomprehensible. Kopaonik, Stara planina, Zlatibor, Zlatar, Šumadija, Serbian healing spas, Delibarska peščara, River Dunav, Uvac, and so many places, other places.
Serbian hospitality. For centuries, the cult of guests has been nurtured in Serbia. Every Serb will offer everything he has in his house to his guests. Each guest must be welcomed to the highest possible level. This, by the way, is part of the character of every Serb, and it is a bit like a child psychology. We will do everything in our power to make stay enjoyable and as beautiful as possible, without exceptions. So welcome to Serbia.